former vice presidential candidate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, has kept it real. He's been going around, not only owning, of course, his involvement with losing the 2024 election to President Donald Trump, but he's also trying to reach out to not only disaffected liberal voters, but also to people in these conservative areas by holding like town halls and going around listening. So now, recently, he went on State of the Union and said, look, Kamala Harris's "I told you so," while, yes, to be fair, we were right, that's not exactly the best way to reach, prospective voters. Here's what he said.
There were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
What does "I told you so" really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walz campaign for being too cautious. She may have told the American people, she may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. I think this is exactly right. This is the thing. Look, Democrats, it was a good night in Wisconsin. I was over there. We saw that happen. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this, and those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying is that was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that. I do think the challenge for Democrats, and this is, I think, a structural problem that's going to take a lot more thinking, why, with all of that out there, did they not think we were any better than that? And they didn't. And I'm very concerned with the folks who stayed home.
So I think that's pretty good self-reflection right there. And I think the party absolutely needs more of that. Okay. And it kind of shows the difference between Harris and Walz. I mean, she's out there saying, "Oh, well, I told you so," which is true. She did. And she was right. Yes. But Walz is out there saying, okay, but how do we fix that? How do we make things better? What can we as politicians do better? "I told you so" isn't going to help the Democrats win. Okay. So I think that's a very, very important distinction here. If you want to win, then you actually have to, figure out what you did wrong the first time and then try to figure out how to do better. Okay. In fact, he talks about that a little bit in this next video.
And these are folks that I'll say once again, Donald Trump has identified their angst. They can't buy a house. They can't afford to get a good education. They're concerned that their economic future is so precarious it could slip out from under them. Less than half of Americans have $1,000 in savings. And I think, why was it not so compelling? It should have been a slam dunk for us to say, we're the party that cares about that. We're the party that's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. We're the party that thinks the ACA is a good start, but we need to do more on health care. And we didn't do that. So I'm concerned. Democrats do well in special elections and off-year elections, but the electorate that comes in presidential election years is different. When I was young, it was easy to know what a Democrat was. They stood with the working class and labor. Republicans were country club and for the rich. Today, you ask people, they don't. We have a 29% approval rating.
Yeah.
It doesn't help us any that Donald Trump ends up with a 25% approval rating. We have to get back to the core issues, that this is about making America prosperous and stable and innovative for everybody.
So that right there is why I really like Tim Walz. Okay. His answer is, hey, look, we did something wrong. Let's figure out how to fix it, right? Let's figure out how to get the working class back. And there are all these real issues here of people not being able to afford a home, people not being able to afford basic things. Let's figure it out. Okay. I think we can do that. I think we can bring people over to our side by actually addressing people's economic needs, healthcare, housing, wages. That's it. And he also said previously that, yes, the Harris campaign played it too safe, didn't talk about big, bold ideas. But there one thing that he is missing, though, as much as I give him credit for all the stuff that he's saying, because I think he's being like actually pretty genuine. He's being earnest about all this. But one thing that he's missing is talking about the donors. Okay. The problem with the Democratic Party is that big corporate donors are still calling the shots. They are making it so that the Democratic Party is not responsive to the needs of average Americans. And a good example here is getting millions of dollars in legal bribes in order to kill Medicare for all. Okay. You've got real estate moguls in New York and LA that constantly pump money into Democratic officials so that they do not solve the housing crisis, because these companies make more money from higher rent and scarcity. Okay. The money here is the real problem. You've got the lobbying, the legalized corruption, okay, which doesn't always end in a win. I mean, Harris, they managed to raise $2 billion and spend a lot of it. The money isn't necessarily 100%, the difference here between a win and a loss. It does play a huge factor because money is media. At the same time, you have to have a good message, and you have to have a candidate that people are excited about. And people were not excited about Kamala Harris. It's just simple as that, right? But look, the Democrats, and this is something that Republican messaging has been really good at, they have been very good at casting the Democrats as the party of the elites. But Republicans are absolutely the elites, and often get paid. By the way, both parties get paid oftentimes by the same people, to be fair. And it's very important to note that, look, you can't represent the working class when you're taking all of that corporate money, okay, all of that billionaire money. So one of the things that the Democrats have to do is to get away from that money, okay? So yes, Walz is right. He makes a lot of fantastic points, and I'm just hoping that he starts to connect the dots here, between big money, corporations, billionaire spending in our elections, and why the Democrats have not been responsive to working people enough. Look, there's so many people in this country that are fed up with the money in politics, okay, with this corruption. I think that if the Democrats made a real effort to purge the Wall Street types out, right, to ban, this corporate lobbying at the DNC, I think they would probably do a lot better in elections, because they could actually then focus on big, bold, progressive ideas that resonate economically with the majority of this country. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.